There's a story in the Bible about a man named Noah. Apparently God told him to build an ark, that there was going to be a big flood. I always questioned that, so I started to do some research, and I came up with the Ice Age. One of the things that's really interesting is that the ice, when it was forming, actually came straight down what is now James Bay. But when you look on the top of Hudson Bay, north of Manitoba, the ice actually went westward, so which indicates that the ice came right across, which is now Hudson Bay. But in northern Quebec, it just moved around. Maybe it originated from that area because it goes south, north, west, east, all over the place. The map that you see here is the one that I created. There is none like it. There are some ideas. But when the ice was receding, there was a wall of ice containing a lot of the water, and there are shorelines here and there that can still be visible today, and it was one of the biggest lakes in the world. There were a few of these all over the world when the ice was receding. Huge lakes were created. They estimate that the ocean was 400 feet lower. As an example, the Grand Banks off Newfoundland were actually not submerged like they are today. They say there was an island out there, and the Mediterranean was dry because salt deposits can be found in the middle of the Mediterranean. To give you an example about floods and what really happened, I will take you to Lake Bonneville in Utah. There was also a big, huge lake there, way bigger than the size of it today. Every year there would be a melt during the Ice Age because it was warm down there and it was cold to the north, on the Canadian border. There was also another lake called Missiola up near the Canadian border. These two rivers would converge and create massive floods that really hard to imagine. There would be huge rivers, hundreds of feet deep. They probably carried glaciers. Massive ice going down rivers, scraping everything. You can still see gravel that is a few hundred feet high, big boulders carried down. And there's a place in the shores of Hudson Bay, a little bit inland, and there are rocks every 4 feet. In the States, there is hills of rocks. What happens is that these rocks would be carried, and the sediment, gravel, mud, silt, whatever was there, just got washed away, and you would end up with these rocks. And I believe the water was not only flow out to the Atlantic, it also flowed out to the Pacific, also through Hudson Bay and the Arctic during the melt. There's a lot of people don't really know, but they guess. But with evidence like this, it's very easy to see that this really happened. Really huge, massive floods that you can't even begin to imagine until you see a miniature one up in northern Ontario. Flood waters go up and down 30-40 feet overnight, and the ice can be like 10 feet thick. During the Ice Age, I believe the ice moving in the water would be so massive that they would just scrape the ground. and the place where there was a big spill was in Nipigon, a little bit west of Nipigon, because you can see the ground around that area. There was this water churning. I can just visualize it because I see it in up in the Winnet River every year. The water would just turn and the ice would just move around and scrape because you can see the ground there. And then one day the water came down Nipigon and created the Great Lakes, created another massive lake. It is amazing, truly amazing. I believe that the Great Lakes between maybe 18 to 8,500 years ago, that it was dry. There are valleys here and there. You see what happens when there's a lot of water. They compress the land and make the area deeper, because they are finding artifacts in Georgian Bay, Native American artifacts, stone tools, also in the bottom of Rice Lake. So that leads me to believe that there was a big spill of water during the big melt, during the big flood, which flooded the area into a one huge massive lake. There is a picture that you see here. This picture is about 90 meters below water. It's a foundation of a house, and there are also salt deposits. This happens when an area dries up, whether if it is salt water or fresh water. It just dries up and salt forms, and that's all over that area, the Mediterranean. So what happened to Noah? Well, I believe that he lived near a river or a lake, and when the flood came, he jumped in his boat and threw in some animals, personal belongings, and head for dry land. I'm from a place where it floods annually, and people do that every year.